We are live. Awesome. We are here with the great Seth Skorkowsky, one of my favorite people. Especially just love his videos about Call of Cthulhu Traveler and all that stuff. All the great videos that he has. His war stories are probably the best war stories I've ever heard. Yeah, so we wanted to talk about a lot of Seth's scenarios that we are going to be running. Lurking Fears will be running at cons this year. Wanted to start off with one my favorite Call of Cthulhu one that he is going to be doing, that he has written that I'll be running at Chaosium Con. I'll be running A Mother's Love. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Seth?
Oh, sure. So, A Mother's Love was published in the second edition of the New Tales of the Miskatonic Valley.
Yay! Look at you,
That
got it right out
I
there.
can't get the glare off of this thing. That Stygian Fox did. So that was a collection of scenarios that was originally published, and then now that we're live, I can't remember names as quickly as I could if we were just sitting there talking normally. But
Mhm.
my previous company that got under Stygian Fox purchased the rights to this out of print collection and did a Kickstarter for it. And Stephanie, who was running it, reached out to me and asked me to write a new scenario for them. So it's all adventures that take place in the classic Lovecraft country in the 1920s. So, Dunwich and Arkham and all that. And they didn't have any scenarios that took place in Innsmouth. And Shadow over Innsmouth is my personal favorite of the Lovecraft stories. I've also enjoyed other fiction involving it. Ruth Anna Emery's has some fantastic, I think it's like the Innsmouth Cycle series. So she asked if I would be willing to write one. I said, oh, hell yes. And the problem with Innsmouth, classically among scenarios, is they are always about the most famous feature is the cult of Dagon and the Deep Ones. It's kind of impossible to do Innsmouth without acknowledging the very obvious elephant in the room. It's populated by this cult and these things, and it's a weird little town, and it's very difficult to do a scenario that is not focused strictly on that. So my goal with it was to have a scenario that isn't the focus. That is a definite part, but it's not what it's about. So
Yeah.
it follows it's about a group of bank robbers who, after robbing a bank, flee to Innsmouth and are hiding out. And the investigators are sent there. Either they're with the feds to hunt them down, or they could be reporters or bounty hunters or different things. But they are being part of this manhunt to find these criminals that are hiding in Innsmouth. And it requires that they work with the Innsmouth Constabulary, who are normally framed as villains. Actually, the characters that I used as the Innsmouth Constabulary are well established. Those I didn't make those characters up.
Yeah.
They exist in other scenarios. I was told I had to make it canon with the other Chaosium products that had taken place in Innsmouth. So I had to, use a lot of the same characters and stuff, which was great, because some of them I had never even considered before. I was like, oh yeah, I should. That sounds good. So kind of wove all that together. So it is not about fighting deep ones. They are just a present threat.
Yeah.
And the other aspect that I wanted to add was kind of a humanization of them, because normally they're treated very much like just monsters, just these boogeymen, inhuman creatures. So I wanted to add just a little bit of kind of a humanization. I'm not saying they're good, but they're actually a little bit more, I guess, relatable.
Not just Goblin A and Kobo B. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what that one was about. And the collection went on to win an ENnie award for best electronic product, because at the time only the PDF was out, so that was cool. I don't know how much of that was because of my scenario, or if my scenario just wasn't so bad that it drugged the others down, because it was a big group project. So I'm like, they were like, oh, you won the ENnie award. It's like, I was part of a large team.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, when I run a lot of Call of Cthulhu scenarios, I'm probably on like an eighth or ninth running of A Mother's Love. Honestly, running your scenario, I
You
know
got me beat.
yeah, I know I've run it a lot, but it's good. It hits all the beats. It's got the 20s, it's got the gangsters, it's got the feds, and and of course Shadowed Innsmouth, which is great. It hits all the beats that you want for a perfect con one shot.
Oh,
Yeah, it really does. I think it works really, really well. It definitely gets the people in the mood. Even though you're talking, like I said, you are kind of going away from the established stuff, like with the humanizing the deep ones, stuff like that. It's still there. It's still present. Um, the other one I like running a lot, other than that one, is probably the Lightless Beacon, which again hits all the beats.
hmm.
And it's got deep ones and creepy stuff and lighthouse and all that stuff. It's super cool, super fun, and you can just meet grinder the people with abandon.
So it's funny. So you mentioned Lightless Beacon and that scenario.
Yeah.
So my very first time that I ever went to Massachusetts was the weekend that Lightless Beacon was released as the Greg Stafford Memorial Adventure. And while we were up there, we did a driving tour of Lovecraft Country. So we actually started up at Newburyport, and they have a historical society, just like they talked about in The Shadow over Innsmouth. There's a Newburyport Historical Society. So my wife and I went in there, and they had no freaking idea what I was talking about. And they're like,
Oh
"What brings you
wow.
into the Historical Society?" I'm like, "Well, in the 1920s, this author wrote about you guys. I want to, about this crown you have." And they were like, just blank. And I'm like, okay, Lovecraft fans have disappointed me because I would have expected like a sign at the door saying, "No, we do not have a crown."
I know. I know. That's such a
And
letdown.
the problem though is it was the weather was wonderful New England weather, which means it was cold and rainy as hell. It was the end of
Mhm.
October, or somewhere in October. Leaves are beautiful. So when we went through Ipswich, the bank that is robbed in that adventure was a real bank in Ipswich that is still there. And I also had no idea how small Ipswich was. Like it's like blink and you miss it, just teeny little
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I were driving around in the rental, and I can't find it. It's raining. It sucks. I pull into this random parking lot. And I'm trying to like pull it up on my phone. I realize I'm in the parking lot for the bank, uh, but it's raining so bad I can't get a photograph in front of the thing because it's like this
Oh.
wind off the Atlantic and just cold as hell. So we then drove up to where Innsmouth would be if it was real. So I do have a
Hmm.
picture of me on a beach in the wind, wrapped in this trench coat. Like, let's take the picture because it's freezing. And the world's biggest seagull is standing next to me, wondering what the hell I'm doing there. Uh, but then we went around to uh, the town right outside the Lightless Beacon that you can see,
Hmm.
Rockport.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So we were in Rockport, and I was standing on the point where the Lightless Beacon should be visible from. I
Mhm.
don't know why they made that island up. There's actually some great islands with lighthouses, like on the other side, that are
Couldn't get
on
the
the
rights.
cover
No
of.
problem.
Well, so we went to Rockport originally because there was a Call of Cthulhu scenario there called Star on the Shore that took place in
Hmm.
Rockport, and we played
Hmm.
like several sessions there. And their map was so accurate, we actually knew our way around town based off of the map that we had done in role playing games. We just didn't understand the topography because we were just used to it being flat. So that was cool. So I actually did get to visit all those spots the weekend that the Lightless Beacon came out. It's just I really don't have that many good pictures because it was really really rainy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, you send me some of those pictures of the bank, that'd be awesome. But I'll see if I
I,
can Google Earth it or something.
like I said, I have a picture of me in front of the barn at Rockport, and it's just like the one at Innsmouth, or where Innsmouth would be, of like take the picture. Yeah. It's cold.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, it is. It's a super, super fun adventure. Again, to me, it hits all the beats that you want. Because then right up there with like let's begin in like my top two adventures to run at a con. Just super duper fun. Innsmouth itself is great. I mean, my favorite mashup that I've done is the is I taken the Johnny Quest. I mean, yeah, Johnny Quest crew, the whole team from like the '60s, cartoon show,
Oh
and
yeah,
put them in the Escape for Innsmouth scenario. And it's amazing. It's super super cool. It works so well. Just kick it up to the '60s, you know.
I've never
And
run Escape. I've read it, or at
yeah,
least large chunks of everything about Innsmouth because I had to.
hmm
But I've never actually run that one.
oh yeah,
It's been out of print forever.
yeah, yeah. You gotta
So
look hard to find it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so for that one, I was like, I don't have Escape from Innsmouth. So like, here's a PDF, and it wasn't even a good PDF.
Yeah,
Like it's like there's
yeah.
like pages missing from it. So,
I know. Oh, that's horrible. Yeah.
but yeah, it's such a cool location. So that's my favorite of the stories. So I was really honored that they would ask me for it. I was also surprised it didn't have one in the first place. But I guess they were like, well, outside the deep ones, what's there to do in Innsmouth?
Well, let me tell you. Exactly. Very, very cool. I love it. Again, I'll be running it at Chaosium Con. Super stoked to run it there. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm running that one. Also running the Scuttling, which is, I think it's out of the Asylum and others. I think it's out of that. No, that's a Victorian one. That's set in Sacraments of Evil. You have to really look for that collection.
Well,
Uh,
I will.
yeah,
I'm
it's a,
tell me
it's
when
a
I can sign up so I can reserve a spot. Since evidently
exactly.
the Cassie God won't even let you be all like, as the GM, you get to reserve one spot for
Yeah,
somebody.
one guy.
So,
It's Seth, man. Let me save him a spot.
because well, between all the ones that I have run and read, it's so rare that I see any at a convention that it's like I'm not familiar with. That I'm like, okay, let's do that one.
Yeah,
So I saw you're running that. It's like, ooh, this an actual one I don't know. This could be fantastic.
yeah, yeah. The Sacraments, and it was in that time again where Chaosium and Call of Cthulhu was really in its swing, and it was like all those great scenarios where like they didn't care about challenge or balance or anything like that. It's like here's the bad guy. They really should just run. you know and it's one of the super good ones. Again, Sacraments of Evil was the collection of scenarios. They're all Victorian era ones. It came out just around the time the original Gaslight's source book came out.
I
uh,
will. I'll have to
super
look
super
into
fun.
that. I
Yeah,
have I have been wanting the new Cthulhu by Gaslight for so
mm,
freaking long. I've got the Hudson and Brand and the stuff that Stygian Fox did. The only reason I've ever run it is like, well, once they released the new Cthulhu by Gaslight, because they teased it in was it Gateways to Terror? No, it was
yeah,
one of their teaser ones. I'm like, yeah, I want to see what they do with seventh edition because this looks great. And it's like, 6 years later, and
yeah. I mean, there's such great stuff. I mean, yeah. I mean, of course, the '20s is a great timeline to run Call of Cthulhu because it's of the time that it was being written. But yeah, honestly, for me, Gaslight is my favorite because it's that whole, Sherlock Holmes and foggy streets of London and all that stuff
oh
going
yeah.
on.
You,
Yeah,
you ever
it's
watch Penny Dreadful?
Penny Dreadful. Penny Dreadful. Time After Time is still one of my favorite movies. Malcolm McDowell. Super good,
I know that.
super good. Just the opening scenes of Jack, walking through the streets of London, just amazing. Just yeah, I just love that time period. That's so cool. Um, so yeah, so let's shift gears from the Call of Cthulhu games. I'm also going to be running. Well, actually, me and another friend of mine, James Sigru, will be running a couple of the Traveler games that you've written. I'm going to be running a two-parter at Gary Con Origins and Gen Con. I'm going to be running Mysteries of Arcturus Station, the part one and part two, Hunt for Saber 4, and then Murder on Arcturus Station. Super, super fun. I've run both of them several times again. I
Well,
love doing it.
I got your feedback for the Hunt for Saber 4. So
Yeah.
it's when I was writing that, I was like, Matt, look at this. Tell me
Yeah.
if it makes sense.
It totally made sense. It was so good. Yeah, it's basically a rewrite, right, of the first one of Murder on Arcturus Station, if I'm not
Well,
mistaken.
so there was Murder
Yeah.
by J. Andrew Keith. Brilliant, brilliant scenario.
hmm
And that scenario blew me away. And the
Mm-hmm.
only problem that I had with it is it opens with a reference, like the travelers have just completed a job where these it kind of ended like this, and so you almost start kind of like off like in media res, like as if you had just done a job, and that you know who a lot of these people are already. And I was like, that's my only complaint with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there had been, I did not know this at the time, there had been a like 2 page, like mini page scenario teaser that J. Andrew Keith had done in the Journal of Travelers Aid Society called Without a Trace.
Yeah.
And the module itself never even referenced it. And either the Traveler Wiki is great. It's not like the Cthulhu Wiki that is like
Mm-hmm.
really
Cross-referenced and
cross references absolutely everything. So I had no idea this was a thing. So I wrote this scenario, which is designed to be that first adventure, and it's designed to end the way that first adventure was. So you can just kind of roll right into the second one, already knowing who a lot of the characters are, already knowing all the stuff that the PCs should know for the second one. And uh, it's kind of a fun one. So it is the idea is the travelers are hired because a giant ore carrier ship has been stolen,
Mm-hmm.
and so I went ahead and I turned that into kind of a murder mystery, and added a bunch of little things to it. And because Mongoose gave me just carte blanche to do what I wanted to murder when I was updating that, I don't want to mess with what I consider pretty much perfection. So the most drastic change that I made is I added one new suspect that you could use, and that is in order to tie the two adventures together even more.
Mm-hmm.
And hell, you were the one that brainstorming like threw that idea out. I was like, done. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we love playtesting it, and it just made sense. I mean, just to have that suspect that did that one thing, because he can be a great GM foil. Because yes, yeah, you do have the beginning scenario which leads into the other one, but you, as a GM, you got to make damn sure that they don't quite fulfill the obligations of the first one, so that there is a second one. And he is, that other suspect is really good in helping you make sure that one is not completed.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So super good. Love this scenario, and especially as we read. I mean, the original was just a classic game of Clue. It was just so
Oh yeah.
amazing, so great. Yeah.
What's strange is that's such an old scenario, like 1981 or
Mhm.
1982, and I've played a lot of investigative adventures. So I picked up the Traveler one. I was like, okay, what the hell could this possibly do that's better than all the others that I have played? And then
Panic Nova, all of them. Yeah, right. Yeah,
or even Call of Cthulhu investigations and all
yeah,
that. And it laid out such a brilliant kind of recipe for how to make all of these unique mystery scenarios that were so wildly different, where it's not just who did it, but like how they did it, how the different suspects will react to the investigators, how they will treat each other. It just has this just massive number of ways it can go, and it gives you the tools to help you through it. Well, at the time, a lot of scenarios for just about any system was kind of like, here's some cryptic instructions. We're going to give you absolutely no help at all, and good luck. And a lot of
mhm.
people was like, well, that was the time. You're only limited by your imagination. Like, I paid money for this. I wanted to actually have some help here. Like,
Not
I
just a
don't see
list
that
of
as a
names.
I don't see that as a feature of a lot of scenarios. Is like, and they give you no help. Um, this one it's such a tight little package. Gave you so much
Yeah,
resource. Adventure requires a ton of prep
it does. It
to really
does.
do. But uh, so when I did that one is when I reached out to Mongoose, and I was like, guys, I don't know what your deal is that you have with Mark Miller as far as reprinting of the older scenarios, but this does not need to be lost to the dustbin of history. This needs to be brought back. This is freaking fantastic. And they're like, well, actually, no, we do have the rights to it. And I said, well, you need to do this kind of update scenario, which I also happen to have already written one because I was running it for my own group. And Matt was like, send it. And that was how that happened. So, the first one I was kind of hit up by Stephanie with this kind of like, hey, would you like to this? Like that one I pretty much like called Mongoose and was like, you guys need to do this and I'm the guy to do it for you.
Exactly. I know I'm a man with a particular set of talents. And exactly. No, it's super good. Super good. All the suspects in it. Yeah, like you said, everything is laid out. It's like, and you can just pick and choose. So it could be this person or make it look like it's these other people. It's so good. It lays it out so well. Their alibis, everything. So well done. So well done. And I love running it. I've run it probably about 5 times now. Super good every time. Super good.
And your version added some stuff I couldn't put in there due to like copyright stuff. That I was like, I want to do that, but that's like, that's kind of getting borderline. So,
yeah. I mean,
but I want to.
And being able to run it, like that, because I can say it on the video. It's my video script, but I like make it required like viewing for everyone to watch Outland. The Sean Connery movie. I make it required. I like to set yourself in how this station is. Watch Outland, and I even like steal some screenshots of like like the questioning the questioning room and stuff, like interrogation room and stuff. It's that.
Yeah. Outland. Outland was such a true space western. I mean, because it was. High noon?
It's high noon in space. Shotguns in space. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, but it was like pretty much just like, we're just going to take high noon and we're going to add vacuum and done.
So well done. The Outland movie was, and it's one of those movies like if you've watched it, you absolutely love it, or you've never heard of it. It's just one of those Sean Connery movies. It's like just did not get a lot of buzz at the time. Kind of like Harrison Ford with Blade Runner back in the day. It's like either everybody watched it and loved it, or have no idea what you're talking about. It's one of those kind of things. Probably even a little more, much more obscure than Blade Runner. But
they haven't done like a big remake of
Outland.
Outland yet.
In my opinion, they should.
Unlike Zardos, Outland was one of those really good post Bond Connery films, because after he was done with Bond, he there were some weird ones.
Zardos is definitely right up there. It was really weird. I don't know if he was experimenting with stuff during that movie, or he's like, you know what? I'm just getting paid a lot of money. I don't care.
It could have been blackmail. It could have been, God knows.
Who knows what got done, what got made to create that movie. But it just kind of goes hand in glove with it. And I take a lot of effects from that movie and apply it to the game, because it's mining station in space. It works perfect. The last one that we're doing specifically at Origins, one of my friends asked to run this one was Death Station, the other one that you've written very recently.
Death Station is the only way you should ever say that title, because it sounds like some really bad metal band that probably just does like covers.
80s arcade side scroller. Yes. Nice. If you want to talk a little bit about that one, we're definitely going to run that one at Origins. Looking forward to that.
Okay. So I've always had an affection for horror. So when I was young, I kind of like, everyone was getting into like fantasy, and I was reading Clive Barker. And, for me, a lot of fantasy is very horror focused. So, and I've written horror novels, and my fantasy stuff is usually borderline horror. So I like the darker sort of stories. And Death Station is another very old classic traveler. This one was written by Mark Miller. Introduced their laboratory ship that's been in every freaking edition ever since then. So it did actually, there's echoes of it that continued, but the scenario is essentially a horror in space. It's a haunted house in space where the travelers are sent to investigate a station that has gone silent, and what they discover. And I had reviewed the original, and then Mongoose had also done an update to it. They didn't make any changes, but they did like a version for Mongoose First Edition that had come out in a magazine,
I remember.
like 2010 or so. And I guess about a month or so after I did that review, Matt Sprains reached out to me and he said, "Look, we're going to be doing this 2022 skin of second edition, where we're going to give it new art and new layout and correct some of the mistakes that we had made, and we want to have a scenario that comes along with it. We want to do it as a free PDF release, and we think Death Station would be great. Would you like to do it the way you did Arcturus Station?" I said, "Yes." So that's how that happened. Is they approached me months ahead of time. I always knew this was going to be some free PDF release that they had done with new art, and once again, he gave me full rights to change it however I saw fit. And I upped the horror a bit. I added just a little bit more of a visceral feel. I added more senses, the smells of places and different things. I added just a little bit more of a threat at certain parts, but I went ahead and really just kind of grabbed this is a haunted house in space adventure. Let's go ahead and use a lot of the tricks that Call of Cthulhu scenarios do. Let's go ahead and throw this in space. Like, the older Traveler stuff is usually very technical in how it was approached. It still is, but it was really bad about that in the early 80s. It was very dry. I would say it was like, because Mark Miller isn't a good author, except for the fact that I've actually read his Agent of the Imperium. The man's a fantastic author. I ate my words on that one. But maybe at the time, it was very, very dry. And so I went ahead and made that much more of a horror scenario than it had been, and focused in on that. So I was real proud of the changes. I didn't think I was going to make that many. And the text, when I gave them back the manuscript, it was 50% longer than what they gave me. So I think it was originally like 7,000 words was just the whole thing. And I gave it back to them, it was like 13. And I have heard Matt say that they're considering it, but I don't know. They might do an actual print release of it, because originally it wasn't thick enough to even warrant one, because it was such a thin little scenario. And then I handed them back this thing, and they're like, well, okay. So they may do one. I hope they do. But if nothing else, because I hang my books on my wall. So in my office, I've got like all my novels in shadow back boxes up on the wall, and like across the room. I'm not moving the camera, but Mysteries in Arcturus Station is in a box on that wall. And so like, I want it because I want it on my wall. So I just want it for me.
Make it happen. Exactly. No, yeah, it definitely hits all the beats of, like you said, of a Traveler and a Call of Cthulhu game without it being an uncle leaves you a lab ship. You got to go check it out. Kind of chaos scenario. But it definitely hits those beats. For a horror Traveler game. It's super fun.
It also adds conspiracy. A lot of fun things, and the layout of the ship is cool because it's just a freaking ring. It's a line. So it's not like a normal dungeon where it's like you come into the cave entrance and then you go down these 6 layers, and then the very last room you could possibly get to is the one that's got the monster in it, and now you fight the monster, you get the gold, and you go home. This one, there's a couple places you can enter, and the whole thing is just a ring, and it's just a line. So when you get in, you can go left or right. You're still so there's no order to it, and
It's a side scroller, man.
yeah, I mean, it's a side scroller on a loop, and the bad guys can move. So I like the fact that it gives this kind of mobility to them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they turn the corner and this is where the ogre is standing. It's like,
Not doing
you
nothing.
know, when I run it, I usually says like, okay, when it starts off, the ogre's standing here,
Mm-hmm.
and then depending on what the PCs do, we'll see if the ogre's still there by the time they get there, because usually they're really loud, or the players are doing all sorts of goofy stuff, and the bad guy is going to either charge or hide or do something based off of the fact that player characters tend to be really loud when they storm a dungeon. So,
I can see him coming in, Scott Brown. But yeah, I mean, Devastation works really, really well for that. I did a similar one years ago. I love mashing pop. That's kind of my thing. Is what I'm known for. I like to mash up pop culture stuff into a Call of Cthulhu scenario, like I did the Johnny Quest one. Another one of my favorite ones is I took this scenario, Dead Light. You read Dead Light. I think you viewed it. I actually but instead, like the gas station or whatever, I put it on like a deep space listening post and put it in like classic Star Trek era.
oh,
And like, yeah, it works so good because it's like in a deep space listening post on the Klingon frontier. So there's like a rogue Klingon group trying to figure out what's going on in the station. You're there with your crew, trying to figure out what's going on, and that thing is drifting about in the station as light. So it works really, really cool. I was running at a con, scared to bejesus out of this young girl. She might have been 14. I kind of felt bad, but everybody was having so much fun.
you're a monster.
I was totally a monster because she's playing like the Scotty, and of course the power's out on the station, and she has to open up this the doors with the emergency hatches and stuff like that instead of like they gotta work stuff, and she's trying to do the emergency. She's stuck like in the hallway alone. I've got her by herself in a hallway alone. And I have the thing start drifting through the lights. So, like the vents and stuff. So I have like, you see like, like this staccato kind of effect of it drifting through the vents. And she's wigging out trying to make the thing work. And she's failing her engineering rolls to try to get the door open. And so she's going to push it. And she's like, I'm not going to make it. And I'm like, you're going to be okay. just push the roll. But yeah, I was like, she's making a roll. I was like, it just touches your foot as you go through the door. She's like, ah. Those moments, man. I mean, again, terrifying a 14-year-old girl, but it was amazing. So fun. Horrible person, I know.
You're just.
Hey, I didn't set her at the game.
Well, I mean, look, it's like this adventure is hosted by Lurking Fears.
Exactly, right.
What were you expecting?
What were you doing? I mean, her dad was there. He was having a great time. She was having a great time. She was getting, we're doing a scary baby. She got scared.
Hey.
Everybody went.
Hey, no, that's the goal. If there's the fun scared.
Yeah, it was complete fun scared. She was terrified for like a split second.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Yeah, her dad was just giggling his ass off. It was so fun. But yeah. Like I love running those kind of games like that. Which, when I start looking at your scenarios stuff like that, when you had us proofread or play test, Mystery Star Tour Station, I was like, yes, this is exactly what we like to do, because it is, even though yes, it's Traveler, it is grimdark, and there's some horror elements in there. There's a murder going on, so it definitely hits our wheelhouse. So we absolutely love running it. So games like again like Mystery Star Tour Station, Death Station, and of course a Mother's Love. Definitely looking forward to running them all this year at conventions this year, and we owe you a big thanks for writing them, of course. So we wouldn't have them. We didn't have you to write them.
I'm happy that people are getting to play them. That's Yeah, that's cool. And it's like I can't take credit for Death Station, like because I've also had to correct a lot of people who have tried to say that I wrote it. It's like I did
Mm,
not write it. I
mm,
mean
mm.
that is Mark Miller.
Yeah,
That's what I'll always bring up. J. Andrew Keith, who if you ever look up the Keith brothers, man, those guys were prolific
yeah.
and very instrumental in a lot of the old sci-fi gaming
Mhm.
uh, for their at that time with the sheer amount of Traveler they wrote and the beginnings of BattleTech. They were
Yeah.
involved in that, and so it was like I did Hunt for Saber 4.
Yeah, that's
Andrew
pretty much
Keith
your
did
baby.
Murder
Yeah.
Arctur Station. I just I got like assistant director credit.
True, true enough. Before I let you go, I did want to ask you real quick. Have you got to look at any of the newer scenarios that are coming out now, especially for like mangas? Uh, there is some really really good ones like Bella Raconteur. Um, oh, what's the other one I'm thinking of? It just came out not too long ago. Super super fun stuff. It's just been coming out. Going through their catalog because I'm forgetting the names of them. But yeah, Bella Raconteur looked really cool. The Denabian ones like the Lost Duke. Yeah,
I saw that. I've seen the covers for them. I haven't read it. So when so we've actually finished our Traveler campaign up. We did like a full year out of one scenario of Islands in the Rift, which is kind of like my favorite of the new scenarios. And it's a campaign that's 30 pages long.
yeah, yeah.
It's a full blown campaign. It's just 30 pages, and then we added a lot of little adventures along the way because that one
Mhm.
was like, give me a flight path, give me what your flight plan is, and I will have adventures for you the whole way there.
Yeah,
And as you're doing your mission, but that one we did is more of like a Cold War spy thriller of how we did that
yeah,
adventure. So as a lot of the stuff was coming out, it's like if you're like, I can't work into my game, like I'll just let it go. So I haven't read really too many of their new scenarios in a while, just due to they weren't going to work in what we were doing.
gotcha. Yeah,
I
other sectors and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like Death Station, we had worked into that, and that's how why I had reviewed that one.
Mhm.
I do pick up like I was on their Kickstarter for Deep Night Revelation.
Mm,
Uh, that's
mm.
that's one that I would really like to try sometime. I don't know how long that thing would take.
It's
Is it like a 3-year campaign? I don't know what.
easily, I think, because I'm doing like the Pirates of Drenax, and we're like on episode 20 right now. We've been playing it for like a year and a half, and like I could easily do another year and a half on
Oh yeah,
it. Yeah,
and this was 3 times longer. It's
yeah,
enormous. So
yeah. But it has
that
the right feel, right? Isn't it like Traveler meets Star Trek to you? Doesn't it seem like that to you?
it does. It all takes place on this like massive capital ship,
Hmm.
and with like hundreds of people on it. So if you die, you're just grab another red shirt or another somebody. And then if you look at the map, like there's always like the Traveler known part of the galaxy. It's huge as it is, with like hundreds upon hundreds of planets that you can look up on the Traveler wiki. It's just like we start here, and then we are hell and gone away from that as we just go into deep, deep,
Deep
uncharted
space. Yeah,
space.
yeah.
And that thing looks amazing.
Hmm.
But I also look as like that's like that's like a years long commitment there. Like
I think it
like
would take at least a half a year just to plot it out. Honestly, I mean it would take a long time just to prep
and
it.
because
Yeah.
it's like a box set, and there's like what 6 hardbacks that go with it.
Hmm.
And it's basically like when you're in this section, you use these 2 books. Then when you enter this section, you can use these books and these, which I think is actually a really cool way of breaking it out versus trying to put it all in like one book. It's like, if once they get through these parsecs, these first books you could put aside, and then you grab these 2 new ones, and this is only the stuff that's within between these ranges of their journey. it looks cool.
Hmm.
Maybe one day. It might sit on my shelf for like 20 years before I dust it off and like, okay, kids, let's play some Traveler.
Well, let me know. I'll reserve a spot at the table. I definitely want to sit in on that one. That sounds like fun.
Looks awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Well, Seth, I wanted to thank you so much for spending time with us and talking up the scenarios, because we're going to have so much fun running them. Mother's Love at Calcium Con, Mysteries Dark Tour Station at Gary Con, Origins, and Gen Con, and of course, Death Station at Origins. So some really, really great stuff that you had a hand in and helping keep those stories alive. Super excited to run them.
Well, I'm happy that people are getting to experience them. Either
Uh,
the new ones or just getting to see these old ones redone for a new generation.
Absolutely. So that's really all we have for us tonight. I just wanted to discuss those great scenarios with the people and let them know that they are going to be out there this year for them to play. We want to thank you so much for
Oh,
being with us, and we keep staying tuned to us on our channel as we talk more and more about upcoming conventions.
thank you.
Thank you.